Welcome to I Need a Coach, where we interview top coaches, experts, authors, and speakers, hear their stories of success, who they help, how they help them, and hopefully give you some ideas you can act on. My name's Adam Packard, and for the last 7 years, we've worked with over 500 coaches and consultants, helping them grow their business naturally. Today's guest is Avi Shai, and Avi spent over 30 years in the tech industry as an engineer, software leader, executive, and now has his own coaching and consulting practice. He's going to talk about using your intuition, taking risks, and how to overcome burnout. I think you're going to enjoy this episode. All right. Welcome to our podcast. Today, I am joined by Avi Shai. Avi, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Adam, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So no, you and I connected a month or so ago and had a great conversation. I was fascinated with your background, and you meet people from all over the world that have these fascinating stories, and it's fun just to kind of hear that. But give the audience a little bit of taste of kind of what you do now and kind of who you help, and then we'll kind of go into your background a little bit and hear that story.
Sure. Today, I'm a coach. Organizational coach, executive coach, career coach, and I'm leveraging my experience of more than 3 decades in the high-tech industry, and we can talk more about that.
Yeah, so 3 decades in the tech industry. So I know you worked at Google, which is a nice feather in the cap. So tell us a little bit more about your history and kind of how you got into the tech world and what you did there.
Excellent. Born and raised in Israel. Educated and had my first 20 years of professional experience there, and then moved to the US about 20 years ago. I worked in small, medium, and large companies. I had my own startup. And as you mentioned, I worked at Google for the last 6.5 years, prior to that at VMware. How did I get there? I don't really know. I can't tell you. I've always had a knack for solving challenging problems, looking at complicated systems, and having value to users, building systems that work, that solve problems, and so on and so forth. So, went to the Technion, got my bachelor's in EE, ended up being a software developer and a software engineer and a leader of software groups for a long time, and ended up with great companies, great people, great leaders, and learned a lot. And I hope I helped other people too.
So you don't just land at some of these companies. So was there a process behind did you I want to work here, or did they come to you, or, how did you get your foot in the door and start at some of these companies? Because it's not easy.
It's not. I don't know if I'm going to surprise you by saying that luck and timing have a lot to do with that. You need to be at the right place at the right time, have the right relationships, and so on. But it's more than that. Working hard, working smart and working hard is something that you need to do from the get-go. Yeah. You need to be focused on those things that I mentioned before, and I'll repeat in a minute. I'll tell you a funny story. Funny, maybe. The person who later became my manager at VMware. I got an introduction from a friend. So the friend had already worked with that person, and that friend told my future manager, listen, you have to meet this guy. Okay. So, footnote, build your network. Make sure that people know you and can recommend you at the right places. So I met with this person at a Starbucks. And Adam, I remember this meeting as if it was yesterday. It was 15 years ago. We talked for maybe 15, 20 minutes. And that person said, Avi, I don't have a role for you. And I don't have an open position. But I know I want and need someone like you in my team. So why don't you come over? Let's start to work together, and we'll figure it out over the next several months. For context, this was the end of 2008. So the market is in free fall, crashing. And I'm actually sitting in a really, really good role. And, I'm a manager, I'm a senior director, I have a good salary, a good team. And this guy is offering me a completely unknown. The people I spoke with said, "Are you crazy? We'll
Right.
go into a new place and it's going to be a FIFO, right? Last in, first out, right?
Yep.
You have no impact. They'll need to cut down and they'll throw you out without a wink." I went in. It was probably one of the best decisions in my career
Well, it's a
because I
risky one
felt
too,
that
though.
it was, but I felt, so this goes to people, right? I felt like in the short time that I met that person, we built the relationship, we built the rapport, we built the trust, and I had the intuition that it's the right thing. And I was right. And yes, it was risky.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened when I moved from VMware to Google. At that time, I was very established at VMware, a successful leader, and someone made the introduction to a leader at Google. And almost the same conversation, kind of, "Avi, I have something new. I don't know where it's going to go, but let's work together." And the same thing, this person is an amazing, inspiring leader. I've worked with him for 6 years. And, maybe that's one of the first things that I want to share with you, kind of working with people, caring for people, the passion, the compassion, the empathy. At the end of the day, when we work, we spend so much time in our workplace, often more time than we spend at home awake. And so the people you work with are the key to making it or not making it for your personal success, for your professional success, for your well-being, for your network, for everything. People.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's interesting. So two things that came to mind there. You took a risk. You're going to a tech company while the tech market is crashing. It's like buying a seat on a cruise ship and your friend tells you it's called the Titanic, right? You're like, it sounds amazing. It looks amazing. But you took that risk, and you also talk about intuition. Like you just had a feeling that this was the right move. And so do you use your intuition a lot in the work you're doing now as well, and in finding what's going to work and what doesn't? And how do you tap into that?
I use my intuition, I use my feelings, and I really like the Heath brothers book. I forgot the name. Give me a second. Sorry, the name escapes me. And they talk about the rider and elephant model, if you remember. And the rider and elephant model is about, you have the logical part and you make decisions and you do your pros and cons, and you have the elephant, the feelings. And the feelings are driving us. The feelings are definitely driving us. So empathy, intuition, understanding what people are saying at the deeper level than the superficial, what you're hearing. I think these are very, very important things.
So when you were working at Google and then now all of a sudden you're not there, what was that transition like? What made you want to pursue something else? And did you know what it was going to look like, or did you just use your intuition and kind of follow your gut?
That's going to take a slightly different tone than our conversation so far. And it's timely and it's related to the period that we have been in the last several years. After 30 years in the industry and after 6.5 years at Google, I was completely, totally, and utterly burnt out. And so quite late in this process, I decided to just step away from the hamster wheel and take care of myself. So as you know, Adam, at that time, I moved to Hawaii. I was privileged and lucky to be able to do that. I've been spending time watching the ocean and being in a relaxing environment. I scuba dive a lot. And I think that that transition, other than what it did for me personally, helped me help others. Because especially for people who are in the trenches, on the hamster wheel, in the process of or already are burnt out, having someone that had been there but is now looking at this from slightly a remote position has value. I can bring calm into the conversation. I can bring reason. I can help people take a deep breath, literally.
Yeah, no, was there because there are so many people that go through that and are going through it, but maybe are not admitting to it. And we all have stretches where we get burned out and need a break. And a lot of people will keep pushing and keep driving and eventually just, lose it. Right.
Right.
When it comes to your coaching that you're doing now, does that play a big part in it? Like making sure that, they aren't stuck on that hamster wheel and they're not burning out. They've got that balance. And obviously they can probably relate to your story in some way. Who's your ideal client that you love to work with that you can help the most, and how does that apply to it?
So there were two questions in there. One was, how does it come to my coaching? And the other one is the ideal client. Let me answer one at a time. Yes, it comes into the coaching, especially because I came from that place. I had the experience. And so part of my coaching, people come to me with, I want to have that role, or I want to get a promotion, or I want to become a VP or a director or whatever it is. I said, okay, fine. I can help you go there. But let's take a few steps back. I want you to understand what motivates you. What are you looking for? What is important to you? What are your core values that getting that new role or job or position or what will it serve? Right. And then the other questions, such as, what are you willing to tolerate? What are you not willing to tolerate? What are you willing to compromise on? What are you not willing to compromise on? But it all starts with what is important to you. And that simple question is far from simple. It is so deep. Yeah. Right. And so getting to that understanding is a process. It takes time. It takes digging in and peeling the onion on whatever other metaphors you want to take. And it's fascinating to see people during the coaching process go through that process of understanding who they are, what is important to them, what are they truly looking for, what are they fully appreciate and value. And based on that, understand where they're going. So your second question was, what is my ideal audience? Anyone who is invested in themselves. Anyone who is invested in themselves. It's hard work to be successful. So you need to be invested. You need to be committed. I tell the people I work with the famous cliche that coaching happens between coaching sessions. And so a few months ago, I was having a conversation with one of my coaching clients, and it was a very productive session. And I give, quote unquote, homework assignments during the session. Why don't you dig into that? Why do journal that? Go research that. Go answer. And then at the end of the session, my client says, OMG, I have so much work to do. And I say, you absolutely do. Remember what we talked about at the beginning? Coaching happens between coaching sessions. And that client over the next several weeks came back with responses to those assignments. And it enriched their life so significantly and the way that they behave and operate and what they're looking for and so on and so forth. I've been in the tech industry for decades. And this is related to your question of what's my ideal client. And so I have this thesis about how to lead and how to drive and how to get results. And a good friend who I ran that thesis by asked me, so what is your target audience? And I said, well, tech folks. And he said, So what if I offered you a connection with a tractor company? And I scratched my head a little bit and I said, you know what? They probably all have the same set of problems, both individuals and organizations. So people who are invested in their growth, people who are invested in their development, and organizations. I'm working today with several engineering organizations that have arrived to the conclusions that they need to do differently and better, and they need help. One of my clients who I deeply appreciate, I run an introduction meeting with every client before we commit to each other. And I asked them, so what are you expecting out of this relationship? And they answered, I need help. And these three words are the most important for me. You need help? I'll help you.
Yeah.
Or I'll try.
Yeah. How often do you have those first conversations and people are expecting one thing, and then at the end of the call, it's gone a completely different direction than they anticipated?
Not often. Not often. Because I want to be the sophisticated mirror for them. So if they want to go in a certain direction, we will work towards that direction and we'll refine it. It may go plus or minus 30 degrees to the left or the right, but people usually know what they're looking for. So it wouldn't be a 180. It wouldn't be completely opposite.
How much of the coaching that you do is focused on executing and meeting business goals and also finding what drives them and makes them happy? And how do you kind of marry those things together?
I want to say 50-50. It's never scientific, but my approach is taking that polar approach, taking both of those ends. And I actually introduce this to my clients when we first start to work. I tell them, you want to reach that goal? Fine. Let's analyze this, see what the tactical steps are, and let's start to work towards that. There will be some small, very tactical homework assignment. And in parallel, we're going to do the deep dive. We're going to do the digging. And eventually those two things will merge. And the understanding of what drives you and what motivates you will help you understand how to do the tactical things. And that's almost magical, right? Because they start to do the tactical thing because we want to see progress from week to week or from session to session. And then in parallel, after a few other sessions on the more deeper thing, they go, oh, right? There's a aha moment that tells them, okay, now I understand not only what I need to do, but why am I doing that? And so those moments are magical. When you're sitting in front of someone, even if it's virtual on like we have been doing in the last several years, and they stop in the middle of the sentence and go, I didn't realize that. That's such a rewarding experience for me as a coach.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Let me ask you this. So I meet you at a networking event. You don't know me. I don't know you. I walk up and shake your hand and say, nice to meet you. And I ask you what you do. How do you answer that question?
Excellent question. I'm an engineer, an engineering leader, an executive, an org designer, and I help people in an organization meet their goals.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you'd be able to answer that off the spot, so I appreciate that. No, because everybody's got a different answer for what do you do and how do you help? They say, oh, I'm a coach. Well, that's a dime a dozen these days, right? So you got to stand out. Yeah. So speaking of standing out, with the world full of coaches, obviously you find yourself maybe you're like me and I don't believe in competition. I believe more in creation. But at the same time, when you're trying to stand out and make a name for yourself, you have to have something unique or be different. How do you do that? And what do you think is, aside from your, extensive background in the tech industry, What do you think is your kind of unique differentiator and why people work with you?
It is the combination. I'm an engineer. I'm an engineer by heart, in spite of the fact that I didn't write a line of code for at least 20, 25 years. I'm an engineering leader. I know how to build team, hire, fire, promote, set goals, execute, and so on and so forth. I'm an executive. I've been in large organizations' decision-making processes. I'm an org designer. I've been in organizations of hundreds and thousands of people, and I know how to build them properly with the right functions and the right goals and the right people and the right structure and so on and so forth. And I'm a coach. And that combination of all of those dimensions, the combination of it is the unique value proposition.
Yeah.
You have many engineers, you have many engineering managers and leaders, you have many executive coaches, you have many org designers and entire organizations that do that. The combination of all of them, in my opinion, is unique.
Yeah, no, that's well said. So when you first started this, was most of your business from people that you knew, your network, your past companies and introductions, and has it always been that way, or did you ever have to scratch your head and try to market yourself?
It has been word of mouth and networking from the beginning and until today. And when I started, I spent a significant amount of time scratching my head such that I will be able to answer those last two questions that you asked me in a very eloquent way. It actually took me time because I thought that, I'm an engineering manager. I can help them manage their teams. That's fine, but it's not very interesting. I could do org design. Well, you could, but there are people who have been doing this for decades and maybe do this a little bit better. And I think that I arrived to that unique value proposition, which is the combination of all, and that's the uniqueness. The other thing is, I'm not a pure coach. What is a pure coach? I was trained by the Coactive Training Institution, CTI, and during the training years ago, they are very adamant about asking open-ended question and enabling the client, et cetera, et cetera. In my engagement agreement with people, there is a paragraph. And that paragraph says, Avi will have an opinion, and he will ask your permission to share his opinion from time to time. So it's a combination of a coach, an advisor, a consultant, an expert that is also that. I'm not shying, and my last name is Shai, but I'm not shying away from sharing my opinion respectfully, of course. You want to hear it? I'll share it. You don't want to? It's fine. I'll support you in whatever path you go. So I think that's the unique value proposition. And word of mouth travels because people get results. So it works.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you were to start this whole business over again, looking back on when you first started, would you have done anything different? Or are you pleased with the way things have turned out? I mean, I would be living in Hawaii and California. Sounds like a nice balance there.
It is. I'm happy with the way things turned out. I would have started a more focused approach and to be able to eloquently identify my target audience and my value proposition probably a few months earlier. But coming back to one of our previous conversations, I remind you that I was recovering from a burnout mode, right? So saying, hey, you should have started looking inside and defining your value proposition 6 months earlier. 6 months earlier, I was in a different mental place. So, yeah.
Well, you seem happy now. You seem relaxed. I mean, business is going well. So that's great to see. How can this has been so great, and you're a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure you're going to help a lot more people in the future. And you can just tell when you meet someone, you're like, this is, even though we're not going to do business together, there's just certain people that you're like, I would sit down and have a Mai Tai with this guy and go scuba diving, right? This would be a guy I would like to hang out with and learn from, because I think we can learn from everybody. So appreciate you being on. Where can people learn more about you and your work if they want to find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. Avi Shai, and you could put the link somewhere when we create this. They can find me on my overly simplified one-page website, which is avi-shai.com. This is where I put my value proposition and a little bit about myself. And I think that these are two great avenues to connect. And thank you for the kind words. Lastly, yes, I am a scuba diver, an avid scuba diver. I actually celebrated my 400th dive the day before yesterday. It was amazing. We were listening to whale songs all around us for the entire dive, and it's mesmerizing and it's exhilarating.
Oh, that's awesome.
And thank you for the kind words, Adam. I really enjoyed our conversation.
I appreciate it. Avi, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Adam. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of I Need a Coach. If you've made it this far, I genuinely appreciate your dedication. Putting this podcast together takes a lot of time and energy. And in return, we only ask one thing, which is if you could please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This helps our show get in front of more people so we can help more people. This is Adam Packard signing off. Keep coaching, keep thriving, and see you in the next episode.